Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center. Welcome to Knife AQ, episode 187 of the questions where I answer all your videos, whether they're sharp or dull. Sure, we'll go with that. Today, amongst other things, we're going to be looking at a little bit of knife anatomy. What is a bolster, and does it actually serve a purpose on a classic or modern pocket knife? Let's find out. We will, of course, be talking about other things besides just that, because what we do here in this series is we answer the questions that you folks leave for us in the comment section below these videos. So if you, in fact, have a question yourself and would like to have it considered for a future episode, do I need to say the rest? You know what to do. First question for today comes from Silentone. Learning so much from your Q&A. Thank you. Oh, you say thanks. You're welcome. My question, what are metal bolsters on folding knives for? I know on kitchen knives they affect the balance and protect the leading edge of the handle. Is it the same for folding knives? If so, why are there folding knives with bolsters made of carbon fiber or G10 in contrasting colors? Maybe I should have picked an example of those in contrasting colors, but I did not. But we don't have to. Let's talk about, we'll start with the historical reason for a bolster. And we're typically, or at least the way I'm thinking about this is in terms of classic slip joint pocket knives. You see them a lot still to this day. And the reason for them was essentially to, back up or bolster the strength behind the pivots, which were just pinned pivots in those days, not modern screw together stuff. And the perfect example, or a classic example, would be like the old school Barlow pocket knife. Although nowadays, like this case knife right here, they can be made quite fancy. They can be classy, elegant things. Traditionally, the Barlow was the cheapest knife in most classic pocket knife makers' catalog, and oftentimes it used less high quality materials for the actual handles, and the metal bolsters here wrapping around the pin and pivot area provided or compensated for that by increasing the strength and actually making it a useful, peasant's tool, essentially. So that is kind of the traditional bolster thing. This case knife right here, however, is not, a peasanty knife at all, but it's still relatively affordable, considering the American-made construction here is about $73. Nowadays, if you're talking about classic slip joints like this, it still does that, even if it's maybe less of a concern strength-wise. But apart from on more modern stuff, I think it's mostly aesthetic, and that's why you'll see them from G10, other materials. But I have two more examples of kind of modern Barlows to illustrate the two other main ways we see bolsters nowadays. The first is this Boker Urban Barlow, designed by Brad Zinker, Knife Center exclusive with K390 steel and burnt orange micarta. I think is very cool. Maybe a little biased, but this has a titanium. You can't really say liners here because the liners and the bolster are all one piece. So it's like an integral titanium bolster. And yes, I suppose this is a bit more stable than, or could be a bit more stable than if you had a different material running all the way up through the pivot. This could create more strength there. I don't think that's the reason most manufacturers are doing it nowadays. It's really more about aesthetics. So that's your integral titanium bolster right there. Certainly a valid way of doing things. Also one of the few front flippers I get along well with, which is fun. The other way you see it is kind of splitting the difference. Whereas classic slip joint type construction, you have metal wrapping around the handle material. This, you've got the integral single piece construction. Oftentimes, and this really is just an aesthetic thing, like on this Lion Steel Roundhead Barlow, it's basically just another piece of handle material. So you've got separate liners here, and the bolster is actually screwed in this case. I doubt that's really making the pivot area stronger here, although it is protecting. Actually, are these pinned or screwed together? I actually don't know, because that area is covered up by those screwed on bolsters there. Maybe it does do a little bit to reinforce that, but as you can see, that's how they're constructed here. I like this ram horn handle version especially. So yeah, historically for strength, nowadays, less so for strength, probably. Hope that helps. Next question came from Jufa. Hi DCA and Thomas. I've initiated a friend of mine to small game hunting. I love a good bit of indoctrination. We are having a blast. That's awesome. But when it comes to the processing part, his knife is an old paring knife that is close to the end of its career. I'm thinking about buying him a knife eventually. I'm looking for suggestions that won't break the bank, ideally 50 to 100 bucks. My ideal would be something close to the Castrum Mini Safari, a knife I've got right here. I've got one myself and really love it, so if possible, a hollow grind in 14C28N, but I do understand that I'm stretching my luck here. Really like your work, thanks in advance. So this knife right here is a very cool small hunting knife. I think makes a pretty cool EDC knife as well. These are available for just over, like 110 bucks. So it's at the top range of your budget, technically over, but depending on, you know, if you want, save up an extra 10 bucks, it might buy you like half of a value meal at McDonald's nowadays anyway. You could go with something like this to match your own essentially. Really cool knife, has a good grip in the hand. It's 3.5 to 4 finger grip for me, enough girth with the G10 that it feels really good. And these are actually in 12C27 Sandvik steel, unless, hey, guess what? The blade says 14C28N.
How about that?
We're gonna have to update our listing on the website, which still shows this as 12C27. More on that later. So it's a good steel. It is hollow ground. It's not particularly like a super thin hollow grind. So I've got two options here. The two best options I found for you, I think, in my opinion, aren't hollow ground. So I'm sorry for that, but I still think they're good options. Other cool thing that this Safari has, tapered tang. Very cool, nice touch right there. Gets into that kind of almost custom level territory of feel. And the fit and finish on these Castrums are absolutely fantastic. And you come with a Kydex sheath on these. So at least I don't feel like constrained to a leather sheath option necessarily, but I do have one here. The first is the Brisa Bobtail. This is the Bobtail 80. Comes in at 66 bucks. You got a 3-inch blade of 12C27. It is a full flat grind, and even though you don't get the hollow grind, it doesn't feel, I mean, it's a little bit thicker in geometry, it looks like, behind the edge, of course, than the hollow ground Safari, but it doesn't feel like it's too thick or gonna be too thick for this use case. Green, they're calling this Ute micarta handles. That's essentially a burlap material. Here it is in comparison to your Safari, size-wise, a little bit bigger, but about the same. And this comes with a very cool leather sheath. Right, so, is that it? Yeah, that's it. And similarly to the Castrum, it has a feel of being a more custom level type of thing, which is just very nice. You don't get the taper tang, but it is very nice. The other option you could consider is also flat ground, but it is very, very thin blade stock to start with, and does not feel, you know, kind of handmade type of level. This is, you know, purely a production knife, but it does come in at about 40 bucks. This is the Deschute Caper from Kershaw. D2 blade steel, so not stainless, but a little bit stain resistant. Thin blade with a full flat grind, and possibly more similar to the paring knife that your friend might be using right now. Plenty of grip from the rubberized handles, very agile handling, very acute and pointy tip as well, and comes with a highly effective, but not nearly as charming as the leather sheath option, injection molded sheath right here. Those are a few options for you. I think if it were me, if I couldn't stretch above 10 bucks above to the full-on Safari, check out those Brisas, man. They are very, very nice. All right, now we come to the segment we call Damyr's Buried Treasure, where we're going through the alphabet and picking out a brand we've never shown on the channel before. Today we're on letter F. I almost said number F. And that is Fremont Knives. And this is the Farson Hunting Combo. 75 bucks for this 2-blade package right here. And these are pretty sweet, and I'm pretty sure I've never shown these on the channel before. This is the primary implement in this 2-piece combo. It is, you know, a hatchet knife hybrid survival tool. What's the steel on these actually?
Hatchet.
It is kind of an Ulu hatchet. You said that with a little bit of ha-ha funny, but you're not entirely wrong. 1095 carbon steel, and it has this cutout here where you can use it on a surface like you might an ulu. Just keep your lanyard out. I almost cut that. That almost became, had to take that out of stock there for a minute. But you have the options there for cutting on a surface. You've got this curved section here for doing skinning tasks. You can achieve that. You've got a leading chisel-like edge, which can be handy. You've got the ability to do carving with it. You might want to get up in here to do that. It's a little more awkward than if the edge were closer to inline with the handle, because you are dealing with it so far apart, but it can be done. And of course, you've got some light chopping action as well, thanks to the hatchet-like qualities that you get from this. And you got the safety of a lanyard. You could shorten that to your wrist size and get a little more leverage, and it'll baton through some wood fairly nicely too, given its stout nature. The second piece here is a simple stainless. It's 4CR stainless, in fact, but it is a small, they call this the hide glider as opposed to the Farson hatchet, and it's a small one-piece kind of bladed hunting tool. It's technically a knife, but it doesn't feel like a knife, you know what I mean? A couple of finger rings for retention. You can hold that very securely without slipping forward. All belly here at the front, and a gut hook style thing here on the inverse side. So there you go. That's our letter F for today, the Farson hatchet combo. I'll just leave the hatchet out here for now. Put this right here. All right, now we come to the lightning round for today. First question's from Brian Matthews 3450. Hey DCA, why is it that you can find a lot of great knives in S35 VN steel for a good price, like 50 to 150 bucks, but knives in S30V are fewer and far between? I'm understanding there are similar steels. I love my S35 VN. It's in my top 3, and I want to try S30V, but I don't want to spend a lot. Please help. They are similar steels. Drawing a, compared one to the other, the S35 should be, all of the things being equal, a little bit tougher and hold an edge a little bit less well. Shouldn't be a huge degree of difference. Some people will say they can tell the difference, but it's not dramatic in any case. And as to why you see more S35 VN in that range as opposed to S30, S35 VN is newer, so it's got like that sheen of newness, and a lot of folks seem to feel it is more desirable. So that would probably be the market reason why it is. But for a quick option for you to check out, if you want S30V at about 125 bucks, check out the Gerber Cedulo. It's a really nice all-rounder type of design, 3.4 inch blade. Yep, 3.4 inch blade in S30V. Injection molded handles, crossbar lock, ambidextrous lock, clip, and thumb studs. It's hard to go wrong with a pretty cool knife like this. You can kind of think of it like a cross between Benchmade's Griptilian and Bug Out in its kind of character. It's got an outline kind of like the Bug Out, but in hand it feels more like the substance of a Griptilian, I would say. Check it out. Next question comes from the Kalas. Can you do a little segment on long-handled, short-bladed fixed knives? I've got big hands, larger than probably DCA, 2XL for most gloves, and getting a 4-finger grip on most knives with a shorter than 3-inch blade length has been nearly impossible. For instance, my cold steel bird and trout does not fill my hands. No preference on blade material, but price under $150. And he says, P.S. You guys are why I love knives. Thanks for all your videos that bring a little joy each week to all of us. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, here's a couple. The first one that came to mind for me was the Essie Pacaya. It is a little bit above your budget, however, at 180 bucks. But for my slightly larger than average hands, I got just enough there. There's not a lot of options in this smaller blade size you're talking about, but the Essie Cincillo could be a decent option. It's on sale for us right now at 140. Normally it's like 170 and change, so could be a good time to jump on it. A2 steel, made in the US. And while it might not have enough full length for you, it has a nice broad swell and an elliptical shape. So even if you're hanging off the back, it still feels comfortable. This feels pretty hand-filling to me. But even more than that, the Hella Skog could be a good option right here. 109 bucks, triple laminated Sandvik steel, and a very girthy and hand-filling wooden grip right there. Again, might not have as much length as you might want, given it's just enough for my hands, but all the rest of the package, the girth and the shape, the ergonomics of it, I think could do pretty well for you. How's that? Is that a little segment enough for you?
If it needs to be bigger, a nice fat braided lanyard.
Well, there's no lanyard hole here. You could, I suppose, drill one if you wanted to.
It does open up as possibilities.
It does. That is true. That is very true, actually. Thomas, with an actual non-sarcastic and constructive suggestion.
Sorry, I won't have it again.
No, that's good. Thank you. That is a good point. Adding a lanyard to her with some kind of braided fob at the end to give your pinky a little more to grab onto. On something like the Cincillo especially, you'll have that girth that you want to have that feeling of a hand-filling grip and the extra security of that little knot there at the end if you want your pinky to grab onto something a little more. Good one, Thomas. Well, now we come to our final question of the day, which is, of course, our most seriousest question of the day. Today, which comes from Kid. Hey, DCA, super serious question here. Since no one uses their knives anymore, and everyone knows that they're just for taking Instagram pictures, what would you say is the most attention-grabbing and photogenic knife? I need a little space here. Basically anything in Ultim. People really like Ultim on Instagram. Well, that's all we've got for today, folks. Keep your questions coming, including your most serious questions. Of course, if you got any alternate suggestions for answers down in the comments, make sure to leave them below. And if you have any questions yourself, again, leave them below. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, including our nice Ultim OTF that we've got right here from Heretic, check out the links in the description, which will take you to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget while you're there about our long-running Knife Rewards program, because the least thing we can do when you buy one of our knives today is give you some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time. Did you know that this is a multi-tool, actually?
It's like the ultimate knife.
It is the ultimate multi-tool because you can perform CPR with this. Check this out. You got brace it right here. Oh.